Silence is an important part of the language in Japan. Japan is a collectivistic society where people do not just represent themselves but also their family and cultural group. Japan is also a society with high power distance. Power refers to the vertical disparity between the participants in hierarchical structure. According to Jeff Launders and Joseph Rowland's definition, collectivism is a form of anthropomorphism. It attempts to see a group of individuals as having a single identity, similar to a person. Collectivism demands that the group be more important than the individual. It requires the individual to sacrifice himself for the alleged good of the group. The standard of good is that which benefits the group. Individuals are not recognized, they are merely a tool for the group. There are many examples in Japanese culture where silence expresses meaning with great force or subliminal elegance. This video will focus on silence in classrooms and in business meetings. A Western student may use silence to draw the listener in, to slow down the flow of events, or encourage the teacher to pay attention while the student justifies or explains. Most Western societies are individualistic societies, where people are independent and represent themselves. Seltman classified silence in Japanese classrooms into 4 categories. 1. Surprise silence. 2. Silence as an expression of agreement and disagreement. 3. Silence as an expression of defiance. And 4. Silence as an expression of femininity. Consider the following examples.
So students, as we know, last week we had the 2-paper essay about styles of English writing. So Brian, did you write the paper? Correct. Rifki?
Surprise silence happens when students are caught off guard, where they seldom respond to questions to avoid disturbing the harmony.
Do you all agree that Shakespeare was accurate in his descriptions in Macbeth?
Silence is an expression of agreement and disagreement. Using silence to suggest agreement or disagreement is common in many cultures. Clarification is made through accompanying body signs. Generally, agreement in Japan is expressed with nods of the head, as in the up and down of a yes. Disagreement, or other negative acknowledgement, is often accompanied with a nod to the side, towards the shoulder.
And by that, students, we conclude today's class. But I wanted to tell you now that we've got an exam next week and that I'm not going to have office hours then. So if you have any questions or anything, email them to me by this week.
Silence as an expression of defiance, to convey an explicit message. In Japan, it has become an accepted code of behavior to use eye contact only for important messages in the case of high power distance. In the first part of the example, the student avoided direct eye contact with the teacher due to the teacher's authority and higher level in the hierarchy and the respect the student had for his teacher. The second part of the example, the students looked directly at the teacher to recognize the important message that the teacher was conveying, which was, there is an exam.
So we've got the components of a sentence which consists of a verb and a subject, and both are used to make the sentence more powerful and to make it have more of a sense. Do you get it, Tessa?
Silence is an expression of femininity, based on a common belief of an ideal Japanese woman. It is still a common belief in Japan that an ideal woman should speak softly and only when spoken to, with her head and eyes lowered in respect and modesty, especially in the company of men. Even if the professor is a female, the female student would not have a direct eye contact with her because of her status and therefore would remain silent. However, the female student would interact normally with other female students because they are all considered to be equals. Now let us turn to the use of silence in business meetings.
In our future plans, we're thinking that we should buy a new set of cars to ease the transportation process.
I don't think it's a good idea.
1. There can be several reasons for the silence. If a suggestion has been made by the foreign CEO, the Japanese side may sit quietly pondering over it, and the foreign CEO should wait, not breaking the silence, even if it goes for several minutes. It is not a negative event, and they are usually carefully considering what has just been said and will respond when ready. A second possible reason for the delay is that everyone is waiting for their leader to say something, and in hierarchical Japan, they feel constrained to keep quiet until he breaks the silence. The superior person present is the only one who can initiate a conversation, and it would feel wrong for any other team member to start up. In conclusion, it is a great thing to understand how people in other societies think or behave, so that in the future we would be aware of how they think and shape their lives in case we communicate with them. But we should always remember, using the right method of communication depends on the context. Understanding the reasons behind specific behaviors goes back to the kind of society that the individual belongs to, whether it is individualistic or collectivistic.